Welcome to Blueprint Radio. I'm your host, Martin Williams. Here we help you create a blueprint for your life. So let's build.
Welcome to Blueprint Radio. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You may do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast with an S, or wherever you are listening to this podcast right now. So today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to start a series on strategic planning. Many of you know that I am a coach. I'm a mindset coach, but I also work with strategy, and I help people develop a strategy for their life as well as their day-to-day activities. And one of the things that's really helped me really turn my life around is becoming more strategic in nature and doing a lot less winging it. I was the type of person who, I would wing a lot of stuff, when I was younger, and that's not really the best way to live. You want to have a strategy. You want to have a strategy for every part of your life. And so that's what I do. And I want to help you today, if you are someone who is looking to bring more organization, more order into your life, to start thinking more orderly. So the first part of the series, we're going to talk about strategic planning at work. And so many of us work 9-to-5 jobs, and of those jobs, most of those jobs are in an office setting. So maybe you don't work in an office, but I think there's still some things here that you can pull out that can be of a help to you. And I'm also going to attach a schematic that you can download and use, and just kind of like a template of something that I do for myself and I would do for someone that I was working with. So why is strategy important? It's because it prepares you for the day. It prepares you for whatever it is that you're doing. When you look at sports teams, coaches plan between games. They spend time watching film. They spend time developing game plans for a 3-hour game or 2-hour or 3-hour game, right? So a lot of time is invested in strategy. And then, obviously the execution part comes after the strategy has been developed. Now, for those of us who work from 9 to 5, our games are a little bit longer than 3 hours, right? It's basically an 8-hour game at work, but you can still develop a strategy, one that you can essentially reuse from day to day. Because a lot of our tasks at work are repetitive. There are things that have to be done every week, every month. So there's a lot of repetition. So, you're not reinventing the wheel every time that you're doing strategy, right? The second thing about strategy is that it puts you in the driver's seat. You're no longer feeling like you're out of control. I don't know about you, but there's times when I've been working and I felt overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you're not in control. You are essentially in the backseat of your own life, right? And that's not a good place to be, because whoever's driving you basically has your life in their hands, okay? So you can't let your task drive you. You've got to drive your task. You got to drive your projects, and you got to drive the things that you need to do at your job. And the last thing about strategy is that it helps you to think ahead so you can fix small problems while they're still small. If you don't fix problems while they are small, eventually small problems become big problems. And a big problem takes more resources, more time to solve than a small problem does. So you want to fix problems while they're small so they don't become giant problems later. So the way that I would help someone develop a daily strategy for their work is I would divide their work strategy in 4 areas: task, projects, meetings, and an et cetera bucket. right? Basically all other things will go in that bucket. So with task, I would write out what needs to be done. And then I would divide that into 3 sections. What needs to be done today? What needs to be done tomorrow so you can prepare to finish it tomorrow? And then what needs to be done by the end of the week? Okay. And in those tasks, I would write out, the that must be done today, right? So everything's not a must, but there are certain things that need to be done today 100% or it's going to be a problem. So those things should be first, right? And typically it's not more than 5 things unless you're really, really behind. Typically it's, usually like 2 to 3 things that need to be done today, no exceptions. So you finish that today. And then what needs to be done tomorrow? What can you start working on today so that tomorrow it'll be a little bit easier? And then you look at what needs to be done by the end of the week. What can you start working on today so that by the end of the week, that that longer project or whatever it is that needs to be done is not so arduous anymore. The second section is projects, right? So with projects, you want to make sure that number one, you have a timeline. If you don't have a timeline for your projects, you need to create one today. So set aside some time at work to create a timeline. And I can put in a link to show you how to create a quick timeline so you can use it. But basically, a timeline can be created in Excel. You don't need any special software for that. You can create it in Excel. You can create it in Google Sheets. But basically what you want to do is that you want to create a timeline of when the project started, what are the milestones that need to be hit, and then what is the due date of that project. So if your boss is expecting you to provide a report by the end of the week and you haven't started yet, the first thing you want to do is create a timeline. The second thing you want to do is create milestones for that project. So for that report, if the report is due Friday and today's Tuesday, then by Wednesday, you want to have a rough draft. By Thursday, you want to have a second draft and maybe have someone else review it so it can be ready on Friday. Okay. If you do have a timeline, then you want to go to the next question, and that is, are you making good progress? Are you on time? Are you on schedule with this particular project? If so, is there any way that you can move the timeline up a little bit so it can be finished early and clear your plate for something else? If not, can it be delegated? Is there someone at your job that has the ability to do what you do, right? If that is the case, then you need to ask that person, can they take this on and help you finish it by the date that is on the timeline? If it can't be delegated, then the priority is to get back on schedule this week, right? So that basically bumps up the priority and heads to your task list to get back on track with that particular project. Now, if you've already outsourced this to a team member, basically you need to email them and ask them, are they making good progress and are they on schedule to complete the project by the necessary time frame? The third area that you want to focus on when you're making a strategy for work is meetings. Do you have scheduled meetings today? So if those meetings are today, the next question to ask is, are you prepared for it, right? Do you have all documents that will be needed for that meeting? Are there questions that you are anticipating being asked, and are you prepared to answer those questions? If you are prepared, then that's good, right? If you're not, then obviously that bumps that up into a task that needs to be done today. Prepare for that meeting and make sure that you're prepared for it when the meeting comes, right? The second thing about meetings is that you want to ask, what is the meeting about? What is the expected outcome of the meeting? What are the, basically the deliverables of the meeting? If you're trying to get us, basically a plan together, to complete something, then that's one thing. If it's, if you're confronting a coworker or maybe confronting a subordinate about something that they are or are not doing, then maybe the expected outcome is, corrective behavior or something like that. Whatever the case may be, right? You want to write out what the expected outcome is, and then what do I need to do to be prepared for the meeting, right? So once you go through all those steps, you're going to then write out what are the goals for the day, right? So a lot of people write out their goals, but they don't go through that flow that I just went over with you. But you want to write out what are the goals for the day and what needs to be done by close of business today. So, just going through that flow, in my experience, I had a couple of tasks that I knew needed to be done, but I also needed to prepare for a meeting. Also needed to check in on projects and see how those are going, right? And if they are on schedule, then great. If not, then, we need to get back on schedule. So you write out all those goals, right? And usually the goal should be 5 to 7 goals, depending on how busy your job is. You may have more, you may have less, but it should be 5 to 7 goals. And then once you've written out those goals, you're going to put them in something like a ClickUp or a Trello, right? And what you would do there is basically you're just going to track those goals, right? And, as you check off those goals, as you complete those goals, you just check it off and move on to the next thing. But this is a great way to start organizing your day, take control of your day, take control of your work life, because you have a strategy, you got a plan now. And as order comes in, disorder goes out, your performance will go up, your stress will go down, and it's great for everyone. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Blueprint Radio podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Blueprint Radio. For more information on Martin Williams coaching and products, please go to guidedexpressions.com or visit me on Facebook as well as Instagram.